welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason. Here are your hosts, Richard Saunders and Stefan Soika.
Hey Richard, how's it going?
Stefan, look, I'm still jet-lagged. I don't know what country I'm in. I don't know what time zone or even planet, but here I am back in Sydney after a fabulous trip to Perth.
To Perth, yes, the whole 3 hours of time zone difference. You must be, just totally off the wall.
It's felt like 3. I think it was 2, but when you go there and back, it all makes no sense.
Oh, daylight saving is 3, isn't it? It's actually only 2.
It's pretty crazy. Anyway, welcome to Skeptic Zone number 43 for the 14th of August.
43?
Which happens to be my age. Is that a coincidence? I wonder.
Richard, you shouldn't give away your age. You don't sound a day over 42.
Well, that's what they say, but oh well, the cat's out of the bag now.
It certainly is. So we're in for another big show, I guess. It's evolving like crazy.
We do. I mean, today, look out. We've got a special interview from Tam, once again, Tam 7, where Eran talks to magician. He probably is a magician, but he's a musician and a hell of a nice guy, George Hrab.
Oh, yeah, he's a very funky, jazzy, cool dude.
He is, and he's got his own podcast. Of course, we'll be hearing more about that. Yeah. And if anybody wants to click on his best of, it's called, regrettably, The Best of George Hrab.
Right.
Go to skepticzone.tv and there's a link on the show notes for information about his best of CDs and DVDs.
He's a pretty cool dude. He's got quite a sort of off-beat sense of humour and stuff too, hasn't he?
He does. And he was the host, of course, for the Tam Talent Show where I was a judge, so that was a lot of fun.
Hey, I'll look forward to the interview.
Oh yeah, and then we've got the mystery of Bootfoot. Bootfoot.
Goodness me, I don't even want to ask what that is.
Stay tuned for Bootfoot. It's a mystery which I think we've got to the bottom of it now. It's pretty scary.
Oh no, you've got right to the soul.
Right to the soul of Bootfoot.
Oh, great!
And we'll be hearing more about the anti-vaxxers. Now, there's been a huge kerfuffle because the Australian Skeptics, with our patron Dick Smith, put an ad in the Australian newspaper warning people about the antics of the Australian Vaccination Network.
Ooh, them's fighting words.
And there's been a lot of chatter and media interest, and we've got a recording of our own reporter Joanne Benhamu, who rang up a talkback radio show, so we'll play that a bit later on.
Fantastic.
And to wind it up, we've got the think tank, which we recorded from Perth.
Oh, yes. Is it? Will that take 2 hours? Do you have to wait 2 hours to hear that?
You do, actually.
Is it actually brought back in time with the show?
I'm working on it. Look, by the time we get to that part of the show, it just might have arrived.
It'll be synced up and edited. Yeah. Oh, great. Wonderful. Oh, that sounds like a big show.
It is a big show. I think we should get into it.
Let's do it.
Alrighty.
All right, Richard.
As sure as the star-bellied sneetches butter the underside of their toast. All things being equal, the simplest answer's worth most. Don't rely on Vishnu, Buddha, Ron Popeil, or the Holy Ghost. Just consider these words, and that ship of life you're sailing on might not smash into the coast.
George Hrab is a musician, a skeptic, and the host of the weekly Geologic podcast. I met George in Las Vegas, where he was an active participant in the TAM proceedings. I asked him to tell me why he came to TAM.
The gambling, primarily.
Oh, the gambling.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Yeah. Apparently there's some conference here as well.
There's
thinking or something. I don't know. No, it's the lovely Phil Plait asked if I'd be interested in performing, and I said, of course, my goodness. So I did a performance of, I got to do both a little show of a piece I have, which is called Occasional Songs to the Periodic Table, which is 1 song per element. And I also get to be the MC for the first ever TAM talent show, which is tonight, which is very exciting. So I get to be the MC for that. So that is the reason that I get to come. But the actual reason, or the thing that really warms my cockles, is the chance to hang out with everybody and to be in this community, which is just the most incredibly inspiring bunch of people to be around.
Is it not also the case that you came here to do the music for a wedding?
That was, yes, another very important surprise reason was, to be the band at an impromptu wedding, which happened this morning. I can easily say that is the earliest I've ever played for a wedding. It was, I think, 8:28 in the morning. And it was.
I think it's the earliest the bride has been awake as well. So
yeah. Like I said earlier, apparently there's a 7 a.m. now, which I wasn't aware of. But for a musician to be up at that time performing was quite a nice, especially in this dry climate. But that was a real honor to be part of the surprise SGU wedding. Yes,
it was very nice. How important to you is being a skeptic?
It's everything. I mean, it is the foundation of just about every decision one makes, personally anyway. Being a skeptic is an approach to life. So its importance is, you can't even describe it. It's sort of like how important is being a human. You sort of can't, I don't know what it's like to not be in that mindset, or to even place it in a scale of importance almost devalues it.
So you basically say, this is me. It's just a short word of saying how I am.
Right, right. It's like, how important is humor?
Yeah, I completely understand. I also say, I'm a skeptic. Maybe family man, maybe first.
Okay, sure.
Although I'm not sure, because they're overlapping definitions.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I can't think of there are so many things that the skeptical approach influences, or that lets you determines what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, where you go. Whether it's 100%, you're driving full out with your skepticism, or if it's 1%, it's still there to some degree. Hopefully, at least that's what I'm always shooting for, to be able to constantly be questioning things and presuppositions and assumptions. And again, to be in a room of 1,000 people that are on that same page is so just tremendously wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm also feeling that 3-day high, drugless high.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very good. Now, you obviously have had this podcast for a couple of years now, and in general, there's obviously new media and the social networks have had a huge effect on the skeptical scene. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, your involvement and also the way you see the responses to your podcast, and obviously your presence on Facebook. How do you see that affecting the skeptical movement? What's your view on that?
It's interesting, because I think I'm a perfect example of how an individual with essentially no formal education, no formal background. I mean, I don't have a PhD I don't have a doctoral thesis in any kind of anything, science or any kind of there are no letters after my name. And yet, because I have this show and have built up a little bit of an audience, I can be involved in a TAM event, because there's a certain niche that I can fulfill. It's a very specified, entertaining, silly musician who goes to, the Amazing Meeting Conference and does a song about elements. It's a very, very tiny niche, but boy, do I own that niche, The fact that I can proselytize through the show as a nobody, and yet influence a few thousand people, or whatever it is, a couple hundred people, on a weekly basis, is the perfect example of what new media can do. The fact that I can go onto Facebook and in the status say, just talked with Phil Plait, going to TAM, and then I'll get 15, 20, 30 responses of, oh, I'm jealous, I wish I was going. That to me, I don't want someone to be jealous, and I feel bad that everyone can't be here, but the amount of responses of like, oh, I wish I could go, is so nice to see. It's disappointing on one hand, but on the other hand, people would come here if they could. In terms of it's not a question of wanting to go; it's a question of timing, funds, all that secondary stuff. Which means that the psychology behind it is where we want them. They're on our team. Yeah. They just can't make it here because they can't swing the plane fare or whatever. And it spreads. It is this virus-like spread. That's a perfect. The viral term is a perfect term for it, because it is a slow, creeping thing. I think what I can provide someone is a little bit of entertainment through songs, through humor, whatever you want to call it, and then it might make you just think a little bit, and then question something, and then see, oh, he's going to Vegas. Why is he going to Vegas? Let's say someone just likes a song that I've done. oh, this guy that I like is doing a song, and he's going to Vegas. Why is he going to Vegas? Oh, it's this amazing meeting. What's that? Oh, James Randi, that guy with the beard was on Happy Days years ago. Oh, interesting. What's that about? You get that little wedge in, and that is what I think everyone who's working in new media can provide, is you can find not only the choir that's already converted that we're talking to, but that friends of the choir that might also check out that little viral video link or that song that's about, the fish that swims up your penis or whatever it is. Like, okay, here, oh yeah, you like that? Oh, well, check this out too. And then he's going, and who's he's talking to? Phil Plait, the Bad Astronomy. Oh, I like science movies and it pisses me off in this, and it all just spreads. So it's priceless, the value of what we have here in this new media.
Of course, it's not always about science. There's also stories about Lederhosen and stuff like that.
Of course. I will be forever, and I think that will be my epitaph.
I think it will be, yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, you know people here now, and you become close to them. But listening to your show, you still seem to be a bit starstruck by, Phil Plait calls you, and you announce it.
Oh, of course. I know, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean... and it's not, I even addressed this on the show because I caught myself thinking, okay, is this coming across as me bragging, or is this coming across as I am like a giddy little fanboy? And I want it to be a giddy fanboy. I want it to be...
You actually mentioned it only a couple of weeks ago. You talked about that.
Yeah, and because it was a concern, and I just wanted to say, I'm telling you folks this because I'm so excited that somehow I have fallen into a position where Phil Plait leaves me a message on my machine. And yes, I consider him a friend, and I'm close to him as close as one can be, in the environment that we're in. And yet, the president of the JREV is leaving me a message. That I don't think that will ever get old, or that I can walk by and James Randi will say hi with 0.7% more familiarity than he would with someone else because he, you're the guy that sang last year. That kind of a thing. That to me, I am still a fanboy, and I'm waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder at some point and be like, okay, you got to go. It's like, we're not buying it anymore. Okay, you fooled us for 2 years, and it's time to go. And I'd be like, okay, that was cool. I appreciate the ride. Thank you. That's 2 years, fine. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Now, speaking of 2 years and 121 shows, right?
We just posted 122.
122, okay.
Thursday, yes.
Being here, I haven't had a chance to download it yet.
Sure.
But what keeps you going? What does it for you? That you're a busy man. You try to make a living somehow as a musician, which can't be extremely easy.
Right.
And obviously you're recording a new album now.
Yes, number 6. Yes.
Yeah. So what is it that keeps you going and makes you want to continue to do it every week?
I just mentioned this before on another show. Also, the podcast, since I started doing it, has been the most. Apart from washing, has been the most consistently done sort of weekly activity that I've done ever. I've been on exercise regimens, I've been on practicing regimens or trying to learn things, or I've trained for marathons and triathlons and things like that. But I have never done something once a week for 2.5 years. That was a concerted effort. Apart from eating soup. I mean, it's. So that in and of itself now is a driving factor of like, okay, I don't want to let myself down. I want to keep doing that, number one. Number two, I do have an audience which has been built up, which I am so grateful and thankful that people want to listen to the crap that I'm making, that I don't want to let anybody down. So that is a nice sort of driving force for me to continue making stuff, hopefully of some quality or some level of quality that matches up to the previous stuff. Third is... even when it is a drag, it's doesn't approach the inverse proportion of how great it is when it's working well. When I do a show that kind of comes off very easily and is a lot of fun and has some good bits in it, has good information, has a good story, and then I get the instant feedback. It is priceless to me. It used to take a year or so between albums. You'd write songs, you'd record a record, you'd press it, you'd put it out. People would hear it, they'd write you an email or something. If they would like it, they'd see you in person and say, hey, I like this song, and it was really cool. But the span in time between the creation of the piece and the feedback was months, years. which in and of itself is a cool thing too. But hear that on Wednesday night I'm creating this stuff, Thursday it's posted, and Thursday afternoon I have some comments. As that needy little boy, it's that's why Facebook is such crack, because I can put a silly little comment and 12, 15 people will respond right away, and that's dangerous, because it is that, oh, love me kind of thing, but it's so rewarding at the same time, so that I can get an idea that, okay, I think this is cool, whatever the thing is, the sketch, the song, the story, the observation, the review, okay, I went and saw the Star Trek movie, I thought it was great, this is what I liked about it, boom, 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 boom. 6 hours later, I'll have 50 people email me and say, hey, yeah, this was cool, and I agree with you here, this is right, not so much here, but did you think of this? Or that, it's this extended, instant community that I have, and that keeps me going. I just recently, I did a show that was a very different kind of show, where it was a combination of traditional or folk Ukrainian songs, and me sort of ranting about things in this Eastern European accent. Very strange, way deep in the hippocampus, kind of a strange episode. Someone wrote to me, and reading this email, I actually teared up, because he said, here was someone who was listening to my show. He said, I'm an artist, I've been blocked for a while, I can't get work to come out, I haven't been able to relax and be able to paint. I put your show on, and it struck me that here was someone that just liked these songs. They were just, you recorded these songs just because they're interesting, they mean something to you, you're not getting paid directly for this. It's not for a record, it's just for the love of the music. And it made me relax and start painting again. What other profession can you get that kind of feedback, where someone else will dive back into their art because, maybe I had a 2% influence on what they were doing.
Especially as an artist yourself.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
That is priceless, and that is possible only because of the medium of podcasting.
You've discussed in one of the past shows the notion of success and what it means to be successful. Yes. And I think you were quoting, I can't remember.
Bill Bruford.
Yeah.
Bill Bruford, the drummer for, yeah.
And I was just wondering what your thoughts now, in your position in the skeptical movement, which is obviously important to you, and the way the podcast is going, then the network that's forming, and your ability to get this feedback that you're discussing. Do you consider yourself successful?
I think that what Bill Bruford said was that he realized early in his career that there's a difference between success and fame, and that fame is not something one should seek out, and that success is independent of fame. Success resides within the quality of the work you produce. So you can have a successful piece, it might not sell at all. And conversely, something that sells 1 million copies might not be a successful piece. And he realized that in many ways he is successful. He is appreciated within his community of drummers, of musicians, and that is his success. For me, my inherent success stands within each performance, hopefully, each song, each album, each podcast, each show. What's nice about that is that you're never done, because there's always something new to be written. There's always some new avenue to try to be successful within. I had the performance last night. Last night's performance was a success, not a tremendous one personally. People enjoyed it. I knew there were things I could have done better, things I could have planned for a little bit better, which will make the next one that much more successful. How much I'm recognized by attendees here, how many albums I sell while I'm here, is independent of that sort of success quotient. So I'm striving to be as successful as I can. I think that answers. I don't know if that's kind of along the lines you're going, but yeah. It resides within the independent existence of each work or each goal. Am I a successful guest? Am I a successful speaker? Am I a successful breakdancer? Whatever the thing is that I'm trying to do. So, yeah.
Okay, so speaking about the things that you do, so you write lyrics, you write music, you sing yourself, you play the guitar, but you still consider the way you describe yourself. I've heard you several times describe yourself as a drummer.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering why are you still a drummer when you do all those other things?
Well, professionally, the thing that pays the bills is me beating the skins. So if someone at a party asks me what I do, my response usually is musician. And the inevitable question that comes after that is, oh, what instrument? And with a little bit of trepidation, I say, drums. Because there is a stereotype of, animal from the Muppets that, either that or, my nephew plays drums. Which, that's kind of the response you get. I don't know. Is it a weird packaged humility or something? My guitar playing skills to any real guitarist are okay. I play guitar really well for my songs. I'm the best guitarist for my songs. Again, any true guitarist, true bass player, true singer could do what I do, without hesitation in a heartbeat. That doesn't so much apply to drums. I think there's a certain level of expertise I have drumming, just because it is my profession. Yeah. So maybe it's sort of like that thing, someone that is really good at some kind of a skill and they kind of just casually do it, and you think like, oh God, I wish I could, do crossword puzzles as good as Fred does, and Fred doesn't care that he does crossword puzzles so well, To me, the drumming is sort of an established thing. Like your first question, how important is skepticism? It's like it's not important. It is.
It is, yeah.
And I will always be a drummer. I mean, that is sort of that foundation. That was the first instrument that I sort of studied and did officially. So that, I guess, it's sort of in my DNA.
Okay, well, drummers don't usually have a reputation for being the sharpest.
Yes.
And there's,
stick in the bag, as it were.
And there's obviously the jokes about a guy who hangs out with musicians.
Yeah, and wears black.
Yeah.
He's called the drummer, yeah. Oh, I have a whole collection.
Yeah, I'm sure
My favorite one is, how do you know when a drummer's riser is level? The drool comes out of both corners of his mouth. That's my favorite drummer joke, yeah.
And, but obviously, it sounds to me like you actually like that reputation a little bit because it allows you to.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I am a man of duality and dichotomies. I love dichotomies. I love, someone in a suit cursing. I kind of like that. Someone
or an 81-year-old.
Or an 81-year-old. Oh, I think that's the feistiest I've seen Randy. I think maybe ever. And just so people know, he went off on a little bit of a tear and cursed, and it was great. It was just. And I turned to my friend who had just come to the conference, and I said, "He's 81. He's 81, and he's so." And that's why he is who he is, Anyway, so yeah, I do like that kind of. Dichotomy of being able to not know what's coming, not know what to expect,
or expecting the opposite of what's coming.
Expecting the opposite, or not, or then you get to that point. Again, I sort of do this with my show a little bit, where in that Ukrainian folk song show, I didn't do an intro or an outro because I knew listening to it, people would be on the edge, waiting, which meant they were paying attention, which is an interesting sort of power to have remotely, Again, Monty Python is one of my favorite sort of anythings, comedy troupe, whatever, philosophy, however you want to approach it. And John Cleese said that these were, the appeal to him of Monty Python were exceptionally smart people doing exceedingly silly things. And I really like that. I think it's easy for a stupid person to be silly. Or for a smart person to be intellectual. I think it's very difficult for the poles to cross, to have an intellectual be silly, or to have a dumb person be intellectual. I love that. I love I'm a drummer who doesn't drink, hasn't touched a drug ever, is the first one at the gig. Knows what key songs are in, which just scares, when a bass sub player comes in and he looks at the piano player and says, what key is this in? And he looks at me and I say F. It's just like, why does the drummer know that, which puts that guy on edge, which makes him pay attention, which is an easy way to just, okay, we're on the same, let's pay attention. Again, is that some masked superiority I'm trying to hide? I don't think so. Maybe, I'm not sure. You'll have to ask my shrink and we'll see. But again, it's just I like the dichotomies. I like the dichotomies of it.
Very good. Now, we talked about the fact that you're working on a new album at the moment, this is your sixth album, and I'm just wondering whether you could tell us a little bit about it, and in particular, does it take a more skeptical line than past albums? Is there more I mean, obviously you have skeptical songs in other albums as well, but my personal favorite is Think for Yourself, because it says it all.
Anthemic, yes. There's a number of songs that are skeptically based. One is a song that's called Everything Alive Must Die Someday, which was a sort of a realization, the fairness of unfairness. This idea that, you know what, everything will die. Everything will die. And whereas to some people that's a frightening idea, to me it provides a certain amount of solace. Because whether you're a good person, bad person, cheat on your taxes, enjoy Britney Spears, hate Britney Spears, we will all be gone. All level of energy, all level of universal anything will be gone. Phil Plait's book, where he talks about the death of the universe. How slowly everything will just wind down and freeze and stop. I loved that idea. That was such poetic beauty. So I kind of wrote a song about that and how that makes everything fair. There's a song about losing my pet boxer, my dog, which is called Small Comfort, which is kind of...
It's a wonderful... must tell you, it's a wonderful song. It provides. I played it to a few people when you played it, after you played it in the podcast, actually more than once. I played it to a few people that experienced loss recently, and they found it extremely important to them to see it from that perspective of not looking at yourself as the person who's grieving, but from the perspective of the one who's gone.
Right.
So
it provides some solace. For me personally, plus people that have heard it, and that's been a very resonant song that has. Every now and then, you really try to hit the target square on, and on that tune, I think I did. So that's on there. Plus, this album is different in that it's been the longest amount of time between records, so I have a large number of songs, and in that time, some relationship things had transpired that sort of threw me in and out of a very good place and then a very dark place. And some of the songs reflect that, which are new to me. I don't have many relationship songs, so those are in there. The songs are a little bit more focused, so they're not the 6-minute, 7-minute kind. They're the 3.5-minute kind, which is also new for me. Just a different thing, trying out different things, trying to get my point across quicker. These songs, I don't know if I said this to you the other day, but they're more punch to the face as opposed to a drawn-out, brawl. Which a drawn-out brawl can be fun and fun to watch in its own way, but these are more just a kick to the taint. So it's a little bit more efficient and a distilled album, hopefully.
And when is it expected to come out?
We're launching. We're hoping for end of the summer or maybe early fall. To have it, and what we're doing with this album, which is also the first time. This is the first time I've released a record while having a podcast. So we are going to put the complete album into the feed for free. Okay. So it'll be available as a download, and then hopefully, if people like it, they can go buy individual songs, go buy the whole thing, or buy the actual physical CD, which will have some hopefully cool packaging, which will make it worth it.
Which Donna will...
yes, the incredible misinformation will design and will make it worthwhile.
Yeah, obviously. The reason, by the way, that I asked about the skeptical, what a skeptical theme there might be in the album is you've mentioned in a recent short interview that you've done for the Australian Skeptic magazine. You talked about how you would, if you won $1 million, you would buy all of Tim Minchin's CDs.
Oh, that bastard Minchin, yeah. It's like you see talented people, you just want to destroy them.
I think to me it was more than that. He's actually built an entire persona, and it's a persona, of course. He's a skeptic himself by his inclination and the way he looks at the world. But he's built a skeptical persona that sells really well. And for you, whose natural audience is the skeptics, which is why you feel so much at home here. Right. I'm just wondering whether that might not be, in addition to obviously your choices about what kind of things move you and all that, but as a commercial choice, it might be to go for that kind of audience, build more of a persona, strengthen that persona of a skeptic, of perhaps of an atheist, all those things.
That is there, that component is there, the marketability, and then I do have a fear of running. I've never written something because I thought I needed that kind of song, or that, oh, this will help push this. This will help sell this. I've never done that. I've been lucky enough that in my obscurity, it allows me a tremendous amount of freedom to make the exact kind of decisions and choices that I want. I love that. I love that if I want to have a 10-minute instrumental on an album, I can do that. Or if I want to have 5 3-minute songs, I can do that. I can write about anything I want to write about. I can have it sound any way I want to sound. I would worry that if you start trying to write towards a market, that's going to limit me a little bit. That being said, I do know when I do the podcast every week, I could sometimes, obviously, as you can tell, I could talk for an hour and a half, and I can't do that every week just because it's inefficient, and I would lose a certain audience or whatever. And there are certain bits that are popular, so I'll think, I haven't done a religious moron of the week in a while, and that's a very popular bit. I should throw that in again. Not to throw a bone to the audience, but it's something that's popular and will help push everything along. So if I noticed on the record there was not a single song that had to do with critical thinking or atheism or skepticism, then maybe something would go off in my head. I don't know. Maybe to put together something which is purposefully constructed with that idea in mind. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Now, you're also a writer, of course. You wrote a non-coloring book.
Again, I'm a writer the way I'm a guitarist, but yeah.
But I'm just wondering is there any other book in the offing? Or?
Oh, well, non-coloring book was a collection of essays and sort of silliness. There have been, for the show, I've written a number of things that I just did a reading at another convention, and I really enjoyed that. And I realized I have a lot of stuff kind of in the can, so it was a very different kind of process and pleasurable in a very different way, but just as pleasurable. So, yeah, maybe another collection of silly stuff at some point. I don't know. There's always something I could be doing. So maybe non-coloring book 2, or non-geography book or something, or non-atlas. That's pretty good. Not a single map in a book called non-atlas.
I'm getting some signals here that our time is running out. So just one more thing that I want to ask you about, and that is a potential trip to Australia. So obviously we are talking about potentially you coming over for
which excites me to no end. Let me tell you. Yes,
it excites us as well. I must tell you. Recently we did a little exercise where you mentioned on your show for people to send me an email, with my Australian fans.
Yes.
And the idea was to, if enough people answered, we may be able to do something.
Yeah.
And 13 dedicated fans.
The server didn't blow up? What do you mean? Yeah.
No, actually, I think it was 13 within the first week, and I think about 10 more over the next few weeks. So while your Australian fans are lazy, they are there. So I'm just wondering if you have anything to say to your Australian fans.
I would love to meet each and every one of you, and we could go wallaby riding. No, it's so insulting, isn't it? It's like,
the national sport in Australia is drinking. I think you can do that anywhere.
Well,
I know you drink.
I can watch.
Yeah, you can watch.
I can be the designated driver. Folks, here's the deal. If I come, I will be your designated driver, so you can get completely pissed. Every night we hang out, and you will get home safely with minimal fondling from me. I promise. I've since I've been a kid, I've wanted to go to the Galapagos, and I've wanted to go to Australia, and I went to the Galapagos last year. So it's your turn, folks. Okay? No, I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
Gio, thanks very much for being on the Skeptic Zone.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
As sure as the star-bellied sneeches butter the underside of their toast. All things being equal, the simplest answer's worth most. Don't rely on Vishnu, Buddha, Ron Popeil, or the Holy Ghost. Just consider these words, and that ship of life you're sailing on might not smash into the coast. Channel, all that I do is see oceans of gullible conformity. Oh, I've had enough. of all the smiles and all the teeth and all the nods. And I've had my fill of promises, from magic rays to painless perfect bonds. Watching every channel that flashes before me, I can't believe the level of spirituality. Oh, I've had enough of the geeks who have claimed to have found the way. I wish that guy watching would just take a sec and consider what I have got to say. Do yourself a favor. Think for yourself, little man. Don't let them tell you that they have the plan, 'cause everyone's lost, chin deep in the sand. And what they're trying to sell to you, you shouldn't be buying. Think for yourself, little girl. Don't let them tell you how to run your world, 'cause everyone's the same, choking back that nervous hurl. And if they tell you they ain't, well, they're just lying. Yeah, they're just lying. Pages in the standard magazines, I wonder if they realize what all that small print means. Whoa, you need a microscope to read about the no-fault guarantee. Yeah, to see that these results not typical, and this offer is void in any state that's spelt with an E, like Idaho. Watching all the people place bet after amazing bet, I wonder if they realize their misplaced raison debt. Oh, but they don't want to hear about the odds and statistic A and B. 'Cause they know a guy who's got a friend, who's got a brother who read a book by this other guy who says that, hey, this stuff always works for me. That's why I say, think for yourself, little folks. Yo, check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Is this thing on? Hey, these are the jokes. Beware of the dudes who don't like jabs and pokes, 'cause when you can't laugh at yourself, you just end up crying. Think for yourself, little friend. Is it you that they like, or is it the money you spend? Beware of the jerks who'd rather break than bend, and to question anything to them is just like dying. Yeah, it's like dying. Chair. No one seems to question all the claims out on the air. Oh, I've had enough of the promises that are so damn tremulous. And I can't conceive the cash of creeps and cretins who continue to be so uncannily credulous. How can you do it? Yourselves, everyone. Don't believe what is said, but put your stock in what's done. Insist on all the facts, and then the punch you might get won't be Hawaiian. Think for yourselves, one and all. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't beat up Peter if you're pissed at Paul. Don't fall for anything, yeah. And please don't drop the ball. Just be sure to do your who, what, where, when, and why-in. Just be sure to do your who, what, where, when, and why-in. Just be sure to do your who, what, where, when, and why-in. Yeah, Hawaiian. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, think for yourselves, people. It's your first and your last chance.
Hi, I'm Alistair Tate, host of the new bi-weekly podcast, The Pseudoscientists, the official podcast of the Young Australian Skeptics. Join Elliot Birch, Darley Breedis, Jason Ball, Jack Scanlon, Tay Rush, and myself to hear what our generation have to say about quackery, science, and the issues that concern us. Subscribe to our podcast, located at youngozskeptics.com.
Bootfoot, the creature, the legacy, and now here, thanks to the internet, we can finally reveal truth about the furry features of the phenomenon that the man tries to hide, probably in the shed behind the gardening equipment. Conspiracy, cartography, just another example of the popularity of Doc Martens being worn by emo kids on the 315 to Chatswood. We talk to the skeptic Richard Saunders about the likelihood of a Bootfoot conspiracy. But first, let us indulge in a timeline tracing the history of this maligned and mistreated mammal, lost in the annals of Australian lore, overlooked in favour of the more mythical creatures, the hoop snake, the bunyip, the drop bear, and fashion icon Maggie Tabarot. 1614. The native inhabitants of Australia drew the first recorded impressions of Bootfoot on the cave walls in Binda Mulla, a suburb just outside Wendogowie. Their depictions reflect a shy, humble creature who wished for nothing more than to play an Xbox 360 in peace. Tragically, the technology required to facilitate hours of game time on Boom Boom Rocket did not exist until 2005. This led to fits of incoherent rage and motorsports on behalf of Bootfoot, leaving large tracks throughout the region, which later became popular sites for BMX rallies and skate parks. 1902. Bootfoot emerges from his years of sulk to terrorise a Mrs. Mindy Hood of North Shore, Sydney, by eating her daffodils. Beaten soundly with a Wedgwood tea tray and covered in tea leaves, Bootfoot flees the scene after failing an audition for the role of Captain Tightpants in Gilbert and Sullivan's Whoop-Spicker, There Goes My Bloomers. This is the first recorded modern sighting of Bootfoot, which has been a subject of debate and panels for at least 10 minutes over the water cooler. 1935. President Roosevelt, controlled by Overseer Bernard Baruch, orders the pyramid all-seeing eye and Latin inscription Novus Ordo Seclorum be placed on the US $1 bill in this year. If you hold it up to the light and squint real hard, you can kind of see Bootfoot waving from behind the grassy knoll. Requests for further investigation into the matter are unanimously laughed at. 2009. The year that Bootfoot is photographed graduating from the University of New Hampshire with a degree in dental hygiene, which is why we can't show you his face on television. However, we secure an interview with skeptic Richard Saunders about the matter. Richard Saunders, are you hiding evidence of Bootfoot?
Huh? What? Bootfoot? What?
And there we have it. Further investigations will not be hindered by the ignorance of skeptics, and we will continue to stake out the local suppliers of Blundstone Docks and R.M. Williams until our question is answered to our satisfaction. Bootfoot, seek the truth.
Australian Skeptics, through our sponsor Dick Smith, recently placed an ad in The Australian, a national newspaper. This ad was warning parents about the antics of the Australian Vaccination Network, a group, to our way of thinking, seems to be promoting the message not to vaccinate. This, of course, stirred up a lot of controversy and interest, and here is our own reporter, Joanne Benhamu, calling up Talkback Radio in Sydney to discuss the subject.
The number to ring. Hi there, Joe.
Oh, hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm well. Another one who's been waiting a long time. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. That's right. Look, I'm a registered nurse, and I just feel that Dick Smith should be heartily applauded for bringing what is really such a fundamentally important public health issue to our attention. I think that, over the years we've probably become a little bit complacent in our awareness of immunisation because we no longer see the ill effects of the diseases that we are able to prevent with the vaccinations that our children and that we as adults have. But everything that we know about the science behind immunisation is absolutely very much demonstrates the safety of immunisation. We're aware with any intervention that there are risks involved, but as has been said, that the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Yes.
And unfortunately...
Well, the doctors have outlined to us when we've had injections for our kids, this may cause this if they have this and all that sort of thing. You weigh it up, you make a responsible decision. At the end of the day, unless your kid's got some medical condition that would be, that is going to have an adverse reaction to the injections, then I find it terribly irresponsible not to have your kids immunised.
And in fact, that actually raises one of the most important points, which is the issue of herd immunity, which if people don't know what that is, the more people in any population that are immunised, the more people who are unable to be immunised because of things like leukemia or people who are immune compromised are protected by the fact that we are vaccinated.
Yes.
The more of us that are vaccinated, the less a particular condition can be passed around the population, and therefore by choosing to immunise your children, you're making a health decision for the entire population, and by choosing not to immunise your children, you're also making a decision for other people's children.
And there are times we need to get immunised ourselves, like when the big whooping cough scare was going on a few months ago. We got injected, my sister with her kids, and her husband got injected. My mum and dad got injected because they spent a lot of time with the kids.
Well, I think that also goes to the government and their responsibilities to us, in that, a lot of people may not be aware that as an adult you need to have booster shots for whooping cough.
That's right, yes.
And I think the government also needs to sort of look at this issue and look at, there were some excellent public health campaigns around immunisation many years ago, and I think we really need to look at doing something similar now.
Yep.
But I think also what you mentioned earlier about the risk of children getting autism from vaccination, that was driven by a study that was done in the early 90s, which has been wholeheartedly thrown out by the scientific community.
Oh, of course it has. As Dick Smith mentioned before, Joe, you do some research on it. You do some reading. There is absolutely no medical proof that these things are triggered because of immunisation. None.
Unfortunately, as you said, the anti-vaccination lobby are a very, very loud lobby.
Yes.
And they engage in fear tactics, which would make people feel uncertain.
No, their voice is too loud, unfortunately,
absolutely.
Joe. All right, good on you.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. 131873, the overline number at 5:17.
Hey, Phil Plait here from the Bad Astronomy blog, and I'm also president of the James Randi Educational Foundation. Now, if you've read pretty much anything I have ever written, you know that I am a pretty big dork for both astronomy and science fiction, and I'm thrilled to be able to combine the two by co-hosting a star party this year at DragonCon in Atlanta, Georgia. My co-host is going to be podcaster and fellow astronomer and a dear friend of mine, Pamela Gay. We're doing this Thursday, September 3rd at 7 p.m. at the Bradley Observatory at Agnes Scott College in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the night before DragonCon starts. This is in honor of Jeff Medkeff, who used to blog under the name Blue Collar Scientist. He was a skeptic and an astronomer and a friend of mine, and he died last year of liver cancer. All the proceeds from this event are going to the American Cancer Society, so this is a great event for a great cause. It's being sponsored by the Atlanta Skeptics, so all you need to do is go to atlantaskeptics.com, and in the upper right-hand corner is a link that says Star Party. Click that, you get all the information you need. So again, atlantaskeptics.com, click on the Star Party link. We're going to be looking at Jupiter and the moon and talking about astronomy, and it's really going to be a good time, and it really is for an honestly good cause. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Andrew from the Nonsense Podcast.
Bringing you a skeptical overview of news, religion and all forms of pseudoscience.
We're defending science and reason against the onslaught of medical and spiritual nonsense.
All week, we are busy researching and debunking pseudoscience. But on the 7th day, we listen to the Skeptic Zone.
Check us out at nonsenspodcast.libsyn.com or search for the Nonsense Podcast on iTunes.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
And nobody seems to be able to say that, including Paul Richardson. Richard, give it another go.
Not today.
Give it another go.
Take two.
Go.
From glorious Perth.
Yeah!
Yes, in Western Australia, it's the Perth Think Tank. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Yes. Whoa, there we go.
Oh my goodness, there's millions of us. Oh, that's really nice. Wow, we're getting a clash here.
And you think I'm clumsy.
Baileys everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What a fabulous time that Hello, Dr. Rachie.
Hi, Richard, how are you?
I'm still getting over this wretched damn skeptic flu, I tell you what. And hello to our reporter Kylie Sturgess.
Hello, I've got a mouthful of mushroom pizza, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's really good though.
There's actually pizza scattered about before us, and there's various people here drinking and nomming, I'm glad to say. And I want to thank you to everyone here who turned up to watch and listen to Dr. H and I give out talks last night. I hope you enjoyed those.
Absolutely.
Right. Madge, let me start with you.
Oh, God.
Tell me about the dinosaurs.
Well, I collect plastic dinosaurs. I have done since I was about 6. I've got probably about 200, 250. Whoa. More than that. I've got them in my room. I've got like this little bookshelf on the front of my thing, and I've got some more on this other thing, and I've got the expensive ones that are, $20, $30, $40 each.
Ooh.
And I've got the $2 shot ones. I just have millions. And I was eyeing these little earrings on your website, and I was like, $20 US. I might have to shell out for that. And then they were here, and they were $10, and I was like, yes.
It's a special price, of course. A special. Now, Madge, can you tell our listeners where you're from and what you're about?
I'm from Perth, obviously. I'm from the UWA Atheist and Agnostic Society. We're basically the closest thing UWA has to a skeptical group.
Right.
We're pretty awesome. Basically, we've just started. We've got Atheists in the Tab, which is Skeptics in the Pub, but differently named, more down to earth, uni student style. And all we basically do is bring out awareness that atheists do exist and we are good people. And we have every week we have a poster that has some sort of witty little quote or phrase on it, and we've been pretty successful, at least this year. Just getting awareness out, and it's surprisingly easy just to have a club at a university. The guilds are all very supportive, and
you have funding. A website, I trust.
We have a Facebook.
A Facebook. Whoa.
We're a Facebook group and a Google group, and that's about
Twitter?
it.
I have a MySpace, which I haven't updated in about a year. But
if you were to have a Twitter, what do you think it would be called?
I don't know why.
Has the penny dropped yet? I mean, all right.
Perth Atheist is free if you want it.
Well, surely Grant would like Perth Atheist.
Well, I'll put it that way. I'll put it this way. When you do, let me know, and we can let everybody know about that. Are there any other people here from other groups represented today? Goodness me.
No humanists.
I think Grant just ducked out for a drink, but I know that the Perth Atheists is certainly a group that regularly. Yeah. Oh, come on, wiggle up closer. Tell us about you.
Yes, please tell us more.
Perth Atheists. Well, it's a group that's been going for about a year and a half now, I suppose.
Yep.
Just started as a meetup group. People basically applied to the webpage. Started with probably about 10 people the first meeting, and now it's 146, I think.
That's good.
Slowly growing, although people have dropped off the other end as well.
Okay. And the website?
The website which Grant maintains is... I haven't been there for a while.
Isn't it
we do have
atheist.org?
Atheist.something or other, but that redirects to the meetup page.
I think the best thing would be for people to Google.
Go to meetup.com.
Meetup.com.
And search for Perth Atheists.
I must admit, most of the action and events and networking we do is through the meetup.com site.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of the most powerful influences that we have in terms of getting in touch with people.
We found
that's the one that I go to.
We found that in Sydney.
Yeah.
We found that in Sydney when Rachie actually was very implemental in... very implemental, can I say that? in setting up the meetup group in Sydney, which brought in a lot of people to our Skeptics in the Pub, I must say. It was fantastic. It was really good. So, Rachel, have you been enjoying your time in Perth? And, of course, you're no stranger to Perth.
No, I'm not. In fact, I used to live in Perth when I was about 10 until I was around about 12, I think. I lived in Morley. Does anyone know where that is from here? Yeah. Are you from Morley? Yes. Right, you live in Morley. Oh, okay. I lived in Chesney Street, Morley. Yeah.
Near Russell Street?
I have no idea.
There's now a massive shopping centre there.
I thought you were about to say there's now a plaque on this building. Right?
Yes, and we commemorate St. Rachel Day. We march down the streets waving vaccination posters.
There is Dunlop written around Morley somewhere, but I think it's a tyre place.
That's where I used to live, actually. Yeah, at the tyre place. I've been here a couple of times after that, though, Richard, because I've got some academic colleagues at the UWA, University of Western Australia, and that's where we spoke last night, and I'm going to be speaking there again tomorrow, in fact, as well. So, yeah, it's great to be back in Perth. I love this place. And we did a bit of a tour today with Kylie.
Because Kylie gets lost in a car quite easily, so suddenly it becomes a scenic tour.
So petrol?
Yes, and then the car ran out of petrol, so that probably gives you a good idea.
Yes, but we did get a chance to gaze at the ocean at Fremantle. We saw dolphins today.
We did. We saw Rottnest Island as well. We stared at Rottnest for about an hour while we waited.
Waited for the REC to come and get my car. Yes.
It was nice to have a little break there, and I saw the spot. I saw the very spot where you interviewed Tim Minchin for the Tank Vodcast.
And that was the very first interview I've ever done, and it was a textbook example of how not to do an interview because I found a spot which not only had a lot of wind going past, but had buses going past. It had an airplane went past at one point, and because it was behind the Indiana Tea House Rooms, which is a gorgeous place where we went to check out, it has bar staff who recognised who Tim Minchin was and came out and went, Tim Minchin! in the middle of my interview, and we had to stop the whole thing as he went, hi, come over, I'll sign your breasts, you know.
Nevertheless, it was a great interview, and of course listeners can go to, they can Google Tank Vodcast and see all the old episodes we used to do as a video show before the Skeptic Zone.
And hopefully my interviewing skills have improved since then. I know that Tim Minchin's career has certainly boomed since then, so now I doubt he'd be able to go through...
It was about 2 years ago,
It was about 2 years ago, and now I imagine he wouldn't be able to go through the main streets of Perth without everybody going, Tim Minchin! at him, which I think is really cool. He's one of the skeptical heroes out there, and he comes from our humble little town, so it's great.
Good on him. Now, I was just going to mention how much I enjoyed last night, and especially watching Dr. Rachel with her Dr. Rachel reports, because this is a similar talk to one she gave a few months ago in Melbourne. But since then, of course, we've had a lot more news on the anti-vaccination front. And I'm curious to know, the people here who came to the talk last night, how much of that was eye-poppingly new, brain-snapping information for you?
We've known about it for a long time.
You've known about it?
We listen to the podcast every week. So
There you go. So you're up to date with all this goings on with the vaccination.
Yeah, it's really depressing.
We've boycotted Jim Carrey movies.
We download them instead.
Illegally.
We have not identified who has said that statement, and we will not reveal anything further if anyone is listening who's not impressed. Yes,
we are an isolated city, but information gets here at the same time.
Yes, that's right. That's right. No, it was after the talk. I said to Rachel, "This is so good. It's fun to give these talks. It's really enjoyable for us too. It sort of recharges the batteries a little bit to be able to tell more people about what's going on." What do you think, Kylie?
Yes, one of the things that I would really love to do. Not only have you mentioned about getting in touch with other cities like Perth, but also getting in touch with things which are specific to each city. And on episode 37 of the Skeptic Zone podcast, I mentioned how there was a certain psychic claim that she knew about the death of Coral Rainey, I believe. Yeah. A woman whose body was sadly discovered in Kings Park, and she had in fact published a book about it. And her name of the psychic, which is dreadful because I was reviewing the podcast on the way here. Debbie Malone, thank you. It always escapes me. It's a humble, sweet-sounding name. Debbie Malone. Hello, I'm Debbie Malone, and I published a book, and I'm claiming that I am a psychic detective. And we had a battle between the two major newspapers in Western Australia. The West Australian, who said this is nonsense, that the police would not use psychic detectives, and I believe the Sunday Times... No, it was the West Australian who said that they do believe that the West Australian Police Force use psychic detectives, and the Sunday Times said, no, that's not true. Were people familiar with that case before? Yeah? What did you know about it?
Well, I understand that the police ultimately acknowledged that they had a junior inspector, or somebody quite junior to the team, had a conversation with her, and that's how the West got the view that they were using her, and they've since apologised and indicated that they'd never actually, in a professional capacity, used psychics or anything like that.
And can I ask Kylie, did she find the body, or she just claimed that
the body was already found?
Yeah. Oh, and so afterwards she said she knew where it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice retroactive little promotion.
She's been a lot on that program called Sensing Murder as well, hasn't she, where they go out and get psychics to do, because I think I saw, it might have been that case, or maybe another one, where she was actually involved and they went to Kings Park, I think, and she got to a certain area and started freaking out and going, I can't, but this was after that information was already published in the media, that's near where the body was found.
That show migrated from Australia to New Zealand, and so did a lot of the psychics involved. Yeah.
The penny.
Wait a minute.
A lot of penny dropping.
The penny's dropped again. Now, what was her name? Yeah. So a lot of Australian psychics, one or two, I'm not sure, but at least some, suddenly were now popping up on Sensing Murder in New Zealand. But the funny thing is, of all the sensing murders that were sadly made in this country and the horrible thing inflicted onto the people in New Zealand, of course the result is no crime has been solved from these ridiculous shows.
That's the funny thing I find about Sensing Murder, and I don't know if anyone else here watches the credits of that show, but they always say at the end, this crime is still under investigation and has not been solved, despite the fact that they've just presented a dozen psychics who have gone around saying, oh, I've got bad vibes here, but they never ever solve anything.
It's the whole entertainment purposes, isn't it?
It's entertaining.
This is entertaining, watching someone.
There should be a new word invented for this sort of entertainment, which is exploiting and manipulative and very sad and wrong.
Is it exploitainment, I think? I've heard that being used reality TV on occasion. Is this really reality?
Or maybe a word to emphasise the more pathetic nature of it, the more... it is sad. It is sad. It's people being dragged through the memories of their lost loved ones yet again for these people.
False hope.
False hope. Absolutely, you're quite correct.
And people make a lot of money out of it. How many people knew about the psychic task force who performed for 2 nights at the Burswood Casino here in Perth? Yeah, what do you remember about that?
I remember there was an article, I don't remember about the task force itself, but there was an article about one of the victims of the Claremont serial killer. The Claremont serial killer murdered, I think, 3 or 4 young women in Claremont about, 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
And the father was just going on and on in this newspaper article about how horrible it was and how he didn't want to have anything to do with it, and how it was terrible how they were dragging his daughter's name through all this 10 years later.
And it was the psychics who were claiming that they knew.
Yeah, and they held these crazy theories, like it was a guy who was 40, all these completely obvious sort of theories.
Is that where they had the photo identity
yes.
kit?
If you look up online, you can actually see they had them up on the stage and this photo identity behind him.
That picture was also published in the Skeptic magazine, the Australian Skeptic magazine.
Yeah.
Of this character, who could look like, well, it's just a...
Yeah.
Was there much of an outcry about it? Did people sort of complain? I mean, they would have sold about nearly $80, $100 a ticket for a seat, and they got 2 nights.
It shows how short people's memories are, though. I mean, the fact that Sensing Murder solved nothing, and it's still, I don't know if it's still being produced in New Zealand or not. The fact that they had this charade at the casino here, and then this photo identification and all this stuff, nothing. 0 results, but people forget. It just vaporizes.
But does anyone know? Oh, sorry, you go on.
I think the father of one of the victims has come out recently and saying how horrible it was to have these psychics saying these things to him, and giving him the idea that they knew something.
Yeah.
And he knew quite straight away that they didn't know him.
Yeah.
And he was warning other families of other victims to not have anything to do with it.
It's tough.
Yeah, there was an article written in The Skeptic by a Western Australian guy about it, and he said that the father went into major depression and was tearing his hair out because he was getting harassed, in his words, by... he had around 400 psychics call him and say that they knew, and he went on these wild goose chases around Western Australia, which all, of course, led to nothing except him being harassed, really.
I've got a question, Richard. What could a group of concerned people in Perth who watch this and are affronted by this and disgusted by this, and they might not be sceptical people, they might be people who think, okay, maybe there's something to psychics, but this is just seriously dodge, where even the parents of the poor young ladies who have died are just saying enough is enough. What could we do would proactively sort of make a stance against this, or at least raise a bit of awareness that this is just not true?
You're right. I mean, in this case, you'd probably want to write to the casino to express your sadness and distress, etc., about that they would have this sort of thing going on. You'd write to television stations, which the Skeptics do. Mm-hmm. When Sensing Murder came out originally, I wrote a long letter to Channel 10. Now, you might think, well, what good does that do? They do acknowledge it and read it. It actually does make an impact. Yeah. I mean, okay, at the end of the day, they might have produced another episode, but at least the fact that there's someone's written in and to complain. And it's pretty important that other people write in. Now, when I wrote in my capacity at the time of president of Australian Skeptics on a skeptic letterhead. And I had to put in a letter, look, now this isn't just me from the Skeptics as a knee-jerk because I'm from the Skeptics saying this. But if it comes from just a concerned citizen saying, hang on a second, what are you doing? It would probably have more impact. So don't be scared, people. If you find anywhere in the world, if something like this is going on, write to the people involved, especially the organisers, and let them know that this is not a good thing. That's probably the best thing you can do initially.
You'd actually be surprised as well. It doesn't take that many letters to a television station before they take action. For example, I used to work in advertising, and if an ad was deemed offensive, it might only be about 6 or 7 letters before they had to be addressed by the Advertising Standards Bureau. And it could get taken off just for 6 or 7 people saying, I found that offensive. So it doesn't need to be an onslaught necessarily. It could be a dozen people saying this is really disgusting. And then the TV station has to redress, or the casino has to redress what they're doing.
Would consumer rights groups be a good avenue as well?
Possibly.
If they are perhaps contravening, saying we are doing this?
Yeah, but for the average person to find out which laws they're contravening or whatever is not easy. Initially it's better to write in and not do it in hysterical terms. Try to make it as matter of fact as possible. If you go over the top with histrionics and hysterics, it's not going to have the same impact as a cool, calm letter expressing your sincere outrage or disgust or condemning
from a
what they're
concerned
doing.
member of the public.
Yeah.
I think they take that really. They really listen to people.
Because if they think, I mean, again, it was a disadvantage if they think that it's a letter from the Skeptics. They're going to say, "Oh, that's just these Skeptics writing it," you know. Anyway, on a lighter topic. Look, there's been talk today, in fact, about why not there be a local Skeptics in the pub. Perth Skeptics in the pub. Very informal, lots of drinking, lots of pizza. We're in the Flying Scotsman.
We're in Mount Lawley. Mount
Lawley, and I'm sure Perth residents would know the Flying Scotsman in Mount Lawley, at least Mount Lawley.
It's in a really excellent area because we've got Planet Video. I can look out the window and I can see Planet Books. We've got the Astor Theatre on the corner. What are some of the activities that people would think would be fun for skeptics to do? I know that the tradition of... Richard is gesturing with his glasses and making beer goggles on his face. But I know that the lecture is the typical sort of thing that you expect, and we get that at universities all the time. It's Science Week, come along to a lecture on
you mean in the
square kilometre array. But, in general, lectures for skeptics are a well-known thing. But for a pub, what could mix it up a bit? You could probably have a guest speaker now and then. But
we have a guest speaker every month in Sydney, but we make sure they don't rabbit on for too long.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't come to Skeptics in the pub to sit back in a chair and listen to an hour talk. Forget about it. They come to drink and socialise, ask questions and have a good time.
Bend a spoon, fold a pig.
Bend a spoon, fold a pig. Absolutely. Have some fun. No, seriously, spoon bending lessons. We give spoon bending lessons and people come just for that.
Are we going to do that? I brought some spoons.
Oh, you brought some spoons.
I brought some spoons.
See? Now look at the happy faces over there, Richard.
Well, I saw you do it yesterday. I was like, oh my God, he broke the spoon in half.
I think
with like 2 fingers.
For other skeptics in the pubs around the world listening to this may differ, but in Sydney, a short talk by an interesting speaker, just for no longer than 25 minutes, say a little bit of this is what's happening, and the rest of the time's given over to people just to socialise, I think is the key.
I think tapping into some of the resources around you is really good too. We've got the Astor Theatre on the corner. If we manage to coordinate with a night that a particular film's showing, which might be sort of paranormal, science theme.
The Skeptics.
Oh, that film's coming out soon. Oh, I don't believe it. Oh, my house is full of ghosts. Oh, I must be converted. Oh, yay, Hollywood. Yeah, if we all went to that and then came over here for a drink afterwards and said, right, let's have a look. We need a drink after.
We need a drink.
It's get harder than after.
Well, I think you shouldn't underestimate just the value of having like-minded people come together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my first meeting, and I have to say, when I first discovered that groups existed, I was just like thrilled. The idea that there were like-minded people out there, and I think we're surrounded by groups that seem to coalesce around some of the more crazy ideologies and thoughts out there, but there didn't seem to be a place that rational people can get together and have a talk and have a drink and so forth. So just having the meeting, I think, is something we really should be aiming for, rather than focusing too much on making it entertaining. Bring the people together.
Yeah,
let's kick it off. Huh? Let's kick off Perth Skeptics in the pub.
We're in the pub now.
We're in the pub now, and we're all skeptics. This is the first meeting of Perth Skeptics in the pub.
Yay!
And stay tuned for the Skeptic Zone as soon as there's an official night of the month. Once a month is enough, I think. Yeah. Twice a month is pretty good, but once a month is enough.
Yeah,
we'll let everybody know the details, the Twitter, the meetup, how they can get involved. Come along. I think the Flying Scotsman is a great pub where it's lovely up here in this room. It's comfortable chairs. It's really good. Yeah. They've got beer on tap.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what pubs generally have.
Oh, okay.
It is quite common in the pub.
So let's see if we can stay tuned for the Skeptic Zone Perth listeners. And pretty soon, I'm sure you'll be coming along for Skeptics in the pub. That would be fantastic. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming along here. Sorry about the various delays today, but we all did make it. We're all here. We're all having a good time. So from Perth, Skeptics in the pub, and the think tank, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh, hang on. Before we go.
What?
So that's why you can't eat it. I was just talking to the students here. Now look, I'm supposed to tell you about something. The Cosmic Tea Party, a new science podcast. Podcast? The hell is that? At any rate, it's about science and mathematics. Sounds rather dull. Oh, hang on. It says here, not dull. So there you have it, the Cosmic Tea Party podcast. www.cosmicteaparty.org. Or search for them on iTunes.
Richard, another huge show number 43, action-packed and fun-filled again.
I love doing that think tank in Perth and sort of kicking off Perth Skeptics in the pub. And since we did that recording, and it's travelled back through time and all that sort of stuff, if listeners are interested, especially, of course, people in Perth, and you want to go along to Skeptics in the pub, it's all happening.
Yeah.
Just go to http://PerthSkeptics, spelled with a K, .org, and there's all sorts of information there, and it looks like they're going to be meeting in the Flying Scotsman. Oh yes.
That sounds like a fun place to meet.
The Flying Scotsman, and the time seems to be set up at the moment for the last Sunday of each month.
Okay.
From 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
That sounds pretty
Perth
good to me.
Skeptics in the pub. Head along.
Might head over there myself. Oh, so what's Perth like now? Is it pretty... it's always been a beautiful town.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a beautiful setting for a city Perth is, on the beautiful river there. It's almost like a harbour, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
and it's just it's sort of idyllic. It's a planned city as well,
yeah.
so that all the roads and stuff is really well organised, and it's a lovely town.
It is I'm going back. It's a fantastic place, and I must say a huge thank you to Tom Perry at tpdesign.com.au, TEEPEE design.com.au.
Yeah.
He and his team did some wonderful photographs of Dr. Hrab0 and myself, and you can see those by going to skepticzone.tv and clicking on the Flickr site.
Oh, I'm going to click there right now.
Have a click.
Check it out.
Have a click.
I got to feel like I was there.
It's me bending some spoons, trying to eat some soup, and Dr. Hrab0 taking on her new persona as Madame Nom Nom.
Madam Nom. Oh, it's getting wacky. The Skeptic Zone's we're really in the zone now.
We are.
Well, thanks again, and it's been another great show. I guess we'll see you very shortly for the next one.
Absolutely. Now, for those people who missed hearing Dr. Hrab0 reports and Eran Segev grain of salt in this show, well, look, we have to give them a break sometimes.
Yeah, they're working pretty hard, and they do have day jobs.
They do have day jobs. They'll be back, but next week it looks like we're sliding up and working out the another edition of the all-female think tank. I think so, but anyway, stay tuned.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be
all
good.
right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Okay, Steph.
Thanks, Richard,
Bye.
and thank you, listeners. Bye.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic